Hello, welcome to the Two Have and Two Roll podcast. My name is Oliver. In this show, my wife Robin and I discuss role-playing in Dungeons & Dragons, LARP and cosplay. We are super excited to have you here, and we really hope you enjoy the show. Hello everyone. We apologize. We had some audio difficulties during the recording of this podcast. Robin's microphone came through a bit quieter than we had originally wanted it to. Hopefully it doesn't detract too much from the experience. I hope you enjoy it. Hello! Welcome to Two Have and Two Roll podcast. As usual, it's me, Oliver, with my partner in crime, Robin. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. You always ask me. We always ask each other how we're doing, even though we live together.
I mean, I think it's a nice thing to do anyway.
Yeah, it feels it feels like at the start of a podcast you should say how are you. I guess.
I mean, one of these podcasts we're going to ask that question. The other one's just going to break down, and that's going to be the podcast episode.
Yeah. Well, I mean, content creation is stressful, so it might happen. Yeah. Also, before we clicked record, Robin informed me that I have a presenter voice, which I didn't know. You said, "Oh, you switched to your presenter voice." I was like, "Well, what does my?"
Yeah, I can always tell when we're about to go live because you do a slight switch now. It's hard to describe. It's almost like you go slightly softer, slightly more softly spoken. And I'm just like, we're about to go live.
Yeah. But yeah, then I asked you how I normally speak and you said, I don't know.
I don't know how to describe it. Well, you make your voice softer for your as your presenter voice.
Yeah.
So you normally speak like this, but not as soft.
So normally I'd be like, let's go make a podcast.
Well, no, you're not a grizzly bear.
Bear. I am Bear. Welcome to the podcast.
To being a bear.
I don't know. That's definitely not my normal voice. I think I maybe slow down slightly as well because I'm trying to enunciate words and try not to mumble because that's one thing that I've definitely struggled with starting to broadcast and present is getting over those I don't know if they're called I don't know if it's really a speech impediment, but those habits that you get into. Yeah, if you're not used to doing that type of thing, I definitely it's things you pick up mostly I guess through childhood because I never really did any public speaking. I never really needed to speak much for my job either when I left school. It's not really a skill set that I honed and nurtured. I'm starting to do it now.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. Well, I think really what happened when I was like 11, 12, I moved from one part of the country to the other. And I was very outgoing and I had no problem speaking in front of people. Yeah, one, because I was 11, but two, at that stage in life when I moved to another part of England, now England is notorious for having vastly different accents in a very small, in a very small landmass. So I only moved 3 hours away. But people spoke very differently, and just the usual. Kids are mean.
Kids are mean.
Yeah. So you go into a new area and you speak differently from people, and every time you open your mouth, there's either a comment or people are mimicking you. So I think I got into a bad habit of just speaking very quietly and just mumbling and. So if I enunciated a word, people wouldn't, mirror it or try to, I mean now it's it's fine, but I think that's just a habit that I picked up.
I Oh, definitely. I mean, we all pick up these sort of habits when it comes to speaking, especially public speaking. Um, I mean, myself, obviously, with the jobs I've had, I've done quite a lot of public speaking. But like you've pointed out to me already, public speaking is different from just us chatting here like this. So I tend to struggle sometimes. I go into my presenter voice where I,
Yeah.
like how I would speak to if I had hundreds of kids in front of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the accent thing, I mean, Scotland's obviously very similar in that sort of sense. You just move, 20 minutes in any direction and they sound completely different.
Everybody sounds different. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I mean, like when I first started doing presenter things, I did a lot of stuff in Glasgow, and I'm not from Glasgow. And very quickly, you said that you became slightly quieter when people would point out your accent. I became louder and ended up mirroring the Glaswegian accent
That's
and
another way
sounding
of
like I
doing
was
it.
from Glasgow.
Yeah, it's funny that because yeah, you know this story, but it's funny to tell on podcast. My sister did,
Yeah.
yeah, who is younger than me, so maybe a little bit easier for her. But my sister, yeah, did what you did. You know, I couldn't lose my accent, but
Yeah.
she literally just went into the school and just sounded like she was born and raised in that area. You know, so there was
Yeah.
I don't think there was any of that for her. Some people just do that. It's a yeah, it's like an endearing thing. I think it does split into like two different types of people. I think people who do that and the people who don't. I never lose my accent. If anything, I go more into my accent if I'm in circumstances where people talk differently around me.
Yeah, if you feel a little bit more vulnerable or slightly more threatened, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Not so much. Not so much now. I find it more interesting now because just diving into the realms of improv and voice acting when it as it pertains to D&D and LARPing. You when you meet someone with a different accent, you're intrigued by how's your voice making that sound. And you want to, but then you've got to be very it also as well. I think that experience of mine, which is probably shared by a lot of people, is good because it shows you the difference between like appreciation and appropriation. Because
Yeah.
there's a fine line there. You don't want to be insulting when you're doing your character accents. But you've got to put across that if I'm doing an accent, it's because yeah, I love that type of voice that they put across, and I love the colloquialisms, and I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to pay homage to it, not
Mm.
make fun of it. you know?
Oh, exactly. I mean, I'm obviously comfortable with quite a lot of different Scottish accents. Getting a bit better with them. For a long time, I didn't like my own accent, and I think that was something that I had to sort of overcome because as soon as I started to like my own accent, it then became easier to use it better and to create other accents.
Yeah.
But I really struggle to do an English accent, and it's something that I have been practicing so much. And I've got even to the point where 3 of the characters I've played now have had an English accent just so I can practice it. Well, my version of an English accent, it's a general fantasy accent.
Well, yeah, I think I think my problem with people who do my type of accent is that they will refer to it as a posh English accent, which is what people is what the nasty children would say to me when I moved to a different part of England. It was like, oh, you have that accent, you're posh, and there's nothing wrong with being posh, obviously, but the word posh has connotations with class, so it was more of a, oh, you're posh, therefore you have money, and it was so
Yeah.
I've never really got the and that is reinforced in fantasy as well. I think a lot of people, especially North American TTRPG players are cottoning onto that, because it is very much enforced in pop culture in fantasy, where if you have the British accents, you have the lords and the ladies that speak like this, darling, and you have the commoners that speak like this, and we're going to go farming, and or we're going down mines and go mining for coal. It's and there's that. There's obviously a historic. There's an historical tie to that, and
Yeah.
I think people are being more. They're starting to be more sensitive to it. But yeah, it's difficult to call. I don't know what else you would call it. Like it's because it's not. You could call it posh English, I guess.
Proper English?
Well, I mean
Correct
that
English?
yeah, that
Mm.
has connotations with like I speak properly, and you don't speak properly. Everyone else in England
You
doesn't
want
speak
to
properly.
finish that sentence?
No, but no, that's
um,
what I'm saying
yeah,
though.
no,
That
I
it has
mean,
that connotation if you call it that.
yeah. Well, it's interesting what you're saying about the different accents for the different classes. The Because I work in secondary school, the drama department, they actually, to study accents in show class, they recreate scenes from things like Downton Abbey,
Yeah,
because it shows a variant of accents where they have people portraying a servant, a high class servant, a lord, a lady, and so on. And it's really
yeah,
interesting to watch the kids, change their voice and create those accents. And then at the end of it, they've got to analyze what tells you this person is of a higher class. Oh, the way they speak, they
yeah,
do this, they do that, they enunciate everything.
yeah.
This person doesn't. They use a lot of slang in their speech, and their accent is rather thick. It's not, it doesn't make them sound like that. And it's quite interesting
Yeah, so that's
to
where
go
it
into
comes from,
accent.
though, right? Because there is
Mm.
there is an historical reason for that. Yeah, well, I know the United States has a similar thing where if you put on a southern accent, it's like it can be quite, even though it might have some historical reasoning for it. You go, okay, I'm going to put a Southern American accent, and that might have connotations with, oh, they're from the country, or that they're, it might have, you might be saying that they have, less education because you're putting on this accent. Oh, I'm a stupid, but that's maybe there's maybe reasons for that, but when it comes to a D&D world, that's completely fantasy, there is no reasons for that, So why can't there be because they're calling it posh English, but why can't a posh English accent be used for, a cutthroat mercenary in a fantasy world, and why can't a Glaswegian brogue be used for a high king in a fantasy world, you know?
It'd be a little jarring, but yes, I
I
get
guess it
it.
would, yeah. And maybe that's I'm not saying that that this is the way around we should do it, but it's just an interesting kind of thought experiment. I know that, and again, people like our view on this being in the UK. There's probably a completely different view, with like a gaming table in North America or a gaming table
Mm.
in mainland Europe. There's probably lots of different things that people want to be careful of. That we definitely don't want to. I have heard something that I don't really consider, but I've heard American content creators talk about being careful with things like Russian accents. It's okay to have a villain with a Russian accent, but make sure that you have some good people in Russia, so you're not with Russian accents, but don't pigeonhole people. And
Oh, yeah. I mean, actually, it's funny you saying that. One of the games that I did quite a while ago, it was a charity streamed game, and it was ran for 24 hours with like 7 different D&D groups, the same DM running the full way through. And the premise of this story, one of the aspects was that it touched on the sort of the bad guys being within Germany. And one of the parts of feedback, because the DM was stopping, at the break to be like, what, any feedback? And a couple of people said, we know that, where this is set and when this is set, but perhaps not having every single villain having a German accent. Maybe it would be a good idea to have some of these villains with an English accent or an American accent or something like that, just, to show that, because we know that we're not all German within this sort of category. And that's what he did. And he changed a few of those things around and it worked really well. But it's these things that you sometimes don't think about. Like, are all my villains English?
Yeah.
Are all my good guys American, or other way around?
Yeah, exactly. It's trying not to, because I wouldn't want to. Again, it's like appreciation versus appropriation. If you have a voice that you like to do, if it's an accent that you like to do, and it works well for that character. I mean, there's probably a reason. I'll tell you what. I'll talk about my accent, so not to step on toes, because I feel I can talk about my accent. My accent, when I can push it to a certain level, it does make a very good villain accent. Because it's because of the way you I don't know whether it is because of that, like, British Empire colonial history that people have, and the British aristocracy, that it's so easy for when you have let's call it the posh English, because we don't know what to call it. It works for a villain, because they have that. It's I'm not going to be big headed and say, oh yeah, we have this accent because we're clever, but there is a thought that, oh yeah, that accent makes you sound like you're educated, because it's the Queen's English. So having a villain that speaks like this, speaks very precise, and is maybe throw in some like a larger vocabulary on top of that character, makes the character feel like they're calculating, they're educated, so therefore they're maybe dangerous in that regard as well. I think that's why it works.
What I would also say is I love like an English accent on a villain, because one thing that this is just, I guess, my own opinion, I feel like it gives the villain a lot of layers. I think when they have that sort of accent, especially within a realm where that accent's maybe not as common, it creates these layers to the villain. I kind of want to get to know them. I want to know, well, you sound so unique and must be something else going on there. And I want to know more about them. And there's just something about that accent on a villain. I think it just works so well. You don't instantly hate them. It also adds a bit of fear, I find, as well. English accent's brilliant on a villain. I think it's both male and female as well. It's that sort of uniqueness that it works really well.
Yeah, that definitely, that type of accent. I think it's because it's so soft and at the front of your mouth. It's not actually an intimidating voice, because it's not an aggressive, because it does appear at the tip, like the tip of your teeth, whereas the Scottish accent, other English accents as well, but the American accent, the Eastern European accent is further back in the mouth, so you can you can use your kind of deep register to your advantage if you want to put forward threat. Whereas the English accent, it's rather difficult to seem aggressive with your voice, so you tend to lean back, and it's more of a kind of like that. It's really easy to be kind of slimy and have underhanded comments when it comes to threats, rather than
real, like, sleek it.
Sleek it, yeah. then yeah. then you're terrifying Scottish accents.
That's the thing, though. It's something that I am very aware of is that if I do raise my voice or if I go quite stern, especially with like sort of children I'm working with, it's bloody terrifying because no one else sounds like me here. So as soon as I go to raise my voice when the kids were doing something, it really works. I mean, they listen. I never shout, but if I just go a little bit sterner, they tend to just stop what they're doing.
Yeah.
So that works. But at the same time, obviously working in a school in England, when a lot of the other teachers and so on start to, raise their voices, I've noticed that it doesn't always quite work the same. On the flip side of that, in Scotland, it doesn't work because everyone's used to it. If you come in, I think if you go anywhere with a totally different accent, you're going to have more people listening at first, or even if it is just because they're trying to work out where you're from, they're still listening.
Yeah, people go, oh, different,
You're different.
Yeah. I don't know if things are changing. I don't know whether it's just a personal experience now that, I spend a lot of my life online and talking to people from different parts of the world. But yeah, I feel like it's not as big a deal as they used to be. I mean, I used to live in a part of Scotland where, before I met you, Robin, where I'm pretty sure that certain people hadn't ever even met an English person ever.
Yeah, I would actually agree. The part of Scotland that you came to, and especially the part where I was from, was not rather welcoming towards anyone, actually, from anywhere that wasn't there. I mean, and I'm talking about if you were from 20 minutes up the road, it would be difficult. And it's something that I remember as a child growing up in that area. It was almost like this sort of weird pride of being from here, and people who are not from here, if somebody came over from Glasgow, they'd be made fun of and so on. Looking back, I'm like, that's an awful way to raise anyone, actually. It's awful to have that sort of, worldview. And everything that you have told me affects the way that I deal with kids. Whenever we get a child from a different part of England, and it still happens, they come in, they get picked on because of their accent.
Because their accent, yeah.
I'm like the one there right away. Like, what did you just say to them? Want to make fun of my accent?
Yeah.
They're children, not like that. I'm really good at my job, I swear.
Yeah, put the fear of God in them with that.
We're teenagers, okay? Come on.
with that Fife accent. Also, I think I always want to say this because people like to differentiate, people like to differentiate, especially a lot of North American TTRPG content creators on this subject, and it's very common. But people will say a British accent and then a Scottish accent. A Scottish accent is a British accent. A Scottish, English, and Welsh accents are British accents. An English accent is what I have. A Scottish accent is what Robin has.
Is a Northern Ireland accent also classed as a British accent? Yeah.
I don't. Technically, so Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom. It's not. It's not really part of Great Britain, as far as I know. Like, our passports say the United Kingdom of Northern Ireland and Great Britain. So they are the UK, but they're not British. I think there are some. I might be technically wrong on that, but it seems to make sense to me. I know there are a few Northern Irish people that I've met that identify as British, but pretty basically, the Scottish thing is funny because I don't think a lot of people really understand the geography, and because the Scottish people are proud of their nationality. So even though I think a lot of English people go, yeah, I don't mind being called British, and they don't care about if they're differentiated, they go, oh, yeah, you've got a British accent. But then when a Scottish person comes up Yeah, but they'll say, "Oh, it's that they're Scottish," and people do get really confused. I've heard podcasts where they're like, "Oh no, they're not British, they're Scottish," and you're like, "Well, yeah," or this is a British accent and this is a Scottish accent. You're like, "No, well, it's an English accent," and
It's
that's
like the whole, when people do all the oh, what are they called? Like the kits to see, what you're made up of, where you've
the ancestry
thank you,
things.
yeah,
Yeah,
the ancestry kits. And most people are like, oh, I want to know, like, where else in the world I've been from and what other parts, make me and everything. And they're really interested and excited to see all these different places. And then you ask most people in Scotland, and they either won't do it at all, or they'll only do it if they're really sure it's going to be like 100% from Scotland, which it's never going to be. But my mother was the worst.
yeah. There's nothing wrong with there's nothing wrong with national pride. I'm more on the other side. It's your differences should only be a point of interest. Not a point of not a point of contention. It's at the end of the day, it's imaginary lines drawn on a map. It doesn't make that much difference to me. I think culture is more important than nationality, really, because the culture that's maybe tied to the nationality is what makes is a big part of an individual's personality, or can be. So that's obviously important and should be respected. But yeah, to use it as an us and them reason is not. Yeah, it's not great.
I mean, like, going back a little bit, the imaginary line thing, that's something that I've heard more and more recently than ever before. And I say it to people quite a lot. And I say, it's an imaginary line. Can we just, it doesn't, we don't need to have any hostility.
Yeah.
And I've heard the imaginary line sentence said so often. And the most common class I hear it in, which makes sense because that's the only class where you're actually teaching it, is geography. And that's when I hear it quite a lot. I hear a lot of the teachers here being like, it's an imaginary line. Before they go into actually talking about the different areas and so on.
Yeah.
But it's said a lot within the UK, like, really, we're just one island.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously history as well, because that's where we get these there's where we get these preconceived models in our heads of what is an English person like, what is a Scottish person like. I mean, like cartoons, like, well, basically like The Simpsons is basically everybody in that show is a stereotype, and it's not just nationality. Like Homer Simpson it's supposed to be a stereotype of the average American. So yeah, every one of those is a what's this supposed to be like, and it's all based on stereotypes are just based on history. And some of them are okay, some of them are not okay. So like bringing it back to D&D, it's not there's not a clear cut answer on what is okay to do and what's not okay to do when it comes to stereotyping. And like, I mean, imagine if I think the best thing to do is imagine if you're if you as a DM or a casting director for your TV show, which is your D&D game, and you're putting it out to the audience, which is your players. I would think about like that. You go, right, instead of going, right, all my commoners in this village are going to be all right, my lovers, like West Country English. That's fine. That's totally fine. But yeah, just have a think about it at least, and be like, okay, well, what am I saying about people who speak like that? If it's, especially if that is going to be something you touch on, because let's face it, we can in D&D and a lot of TTRPGs, and a lot of these rule sets, we can make our own world. So people, I personally like to involve certain real world topics, things like politics, warfare, and having nations. But you can make your
Yeah.
homebrew world without your homebrew world without any nations or borders. It'd be like
Yeah, no,
John,
exactly.
be like John Lennon's world. Just have no, yeah. It's totally possible though, right?
Yeah. Well, like one of the things that I've noticed myself doing, which I've kind of I've pulled myself up on it, is I have a couple of characters. I'm like Torby, for example, is just this really ditzy elf. And every time I create this sort of ditzy elf, I end up with the same accent. It always ends up being slightly more American, like this sort of like what's in my mind is this sort of like ditzy American cheerleader. And I'm like, oh wait, that's not because I think that accent shows that they're ditzy. It's actually just because every time I played that character, it's been with a group of people who are American. So I just end up mirroring their accent. And I've brought that into other games since then. And it tends to go a little bit that way. So I've actually tried playing around with my own voice to get that type of upwards inflection without sounding American or Glaswegian and trying to come up with an accent in the middle.
Yeah.
It's my fantasy ditzy accent.
Well, yeah, and I think that is 100% very much reciprocated the other way if we're talking about North American people playing D&D, and because there's a very well known D&D stream that's huge that has a very talented cast of actors. Yeah, their British accents not so spot on, and that's not a criticism on them because they're in a fantasy world and they're making fantasy characters and they are very good at it. But I am no way offended, if one of them has a decides to do an English accent. And they bring up a lot of Scottish accents are very common as well as as
Yeah.
Irish and Welsh accents. I don't get offended, but they have this. It's very common that you have this fantasy accent. I just did inverted commas. Fantasy accent, which tends to be, which can sometimes be posh American. It's actually more common I found in sci-fi shows, like American sci-fi shows. They go to this planet and it's not advanced, and they're like, oh, and there's all these people in tunics and dresses, and they have this like fantasy. It's not an English accent. It's just very well spoken American. it's you can tell that, yeah, yeah, you can tell that's what they're sort of going for, but it's not quite an English accent. So I think what North Americans and probably I'm picking on North Americans, but yeah, what they're trying to do is just this like fantasy accent that they've all been used to, probably because of things. Look at pop culture. That it's a lot of it, a lot of D&D. I don't want people to grab the pitchforks because I know that Gary Gygax came out. I think he literally had said that he wasn't a big fan of Tolkien, but yeah, come on, like D&D, that whole what they had in common, the D&D lore and the Tolkien lore is it was very much like that kind of fantasy land vibe of medieval Europe, even though there's lots of different aspects now taken from it, there's a massive influence there, and a lot of fantasy stories are like, the Lord of the Rings films, the Narnia films, and they're all these people in armor and wizards, and they've all got British accents.
Yeah.
So I can totally see why it is a common thing to people when they sit down for a game of D&D, and you're a group of people who aren't British, and they all start wanting to do British accents, and that's totally cool. I say go for it.
Yeah, like I like it actually.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool. That so many people want to do that. It works well as that sort of fantasy accent anyway, and you know what, a Scottish accent works pretty well as
Yeah.
a dwarf. It works.
Yeah. Well, Game of Thrones,
Works
that's another
brilliant.
one as well. Game of Thrones people were going crazy over the accents, weren't they? And because D&D and fantasy tend to have, I think because of the technology, and they put like magic and it's like what am I trying to say? Swords and sorcery. There we go. Because a lot of it is like swords and sorcery. They tend to go and they relate it to the past. So like New World accents kind of get left out, like North American accents, like Oceanic accents. Because
Mhm.
they're New World, New World accents. Um, so they tend to go, we're going to go kind of Old World accents. I think that might be the connection. It seems to make sense to me anyway. They're like, oh yeah, it's back in the day where they you know uh they hadn't discovered any technology, even though it's fantasy and it's not really anything to do with history. So
Yeah, yeah, no, I get that. Definitely.
are you keeping an eye on our dog? I can see you keep
I'm
looking.
trying to send you a message
Oh
because
really?
she's desperate to go out and she's like whining at me, and I'm like,
Oh, we'll just let her
I'm gonna
out.
go let her out.
That's fine. Let her out. I can talk about it
You
without
can
you.
talk. You can talk about Arya, and I'll be back in a second.
So yeah, Aria is a Rottweiler, which is a German breed of dog, which is an accent that uh, I cannot. Well, I'm not saying I cannot do it, but I just haven't tried it yet. So what's tricky about accents that I find is that you have to practice them. So when we were talking about appreciation versus appropriation, when you're practicing them, in public, yeah, you walk the line of being offensive. That's what I find anyway, and it's I think well, yeah, that's the worry, should I say? Maybe not. I find that, but that's the worry because then you go right. I'm definitely going to do this. I want to do this German accent, and yeah, it usually comes from a place of my character has this accent. Um, my character has this accent that is a German accent. Thank you for the beer. My wife just brought me a beer. She used the dog needing to pee as an excuse to get to get more beer, but it's good because I got beer too. Um, let's wait. Here she is. She's coming back. Here she is. Hello, you're back.
I'm back. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. She was like at the start of the podcast. She had her tennis ball and she was like chucking it at me. And I was like
I know.
trying to ignore her.
I know. I could
And
see
she was
you.
whining.
Yeah, I could see you just constantly like looking looking at the
So
side.
she was literally throwing a tennis ball at me, and then she was behind my seat. Then she was bumping into the wires at the back, and my wires at the back of my computer are not set up overly great, and if you bump into them, it will put things off. So I'm like
Yeah.
trying to shoo her away, and then she's crying.
Yeah.
She just wanted a biscuit.
Yeah. Dogs. Yeah, I was just saying as well while you were away, Robin. I might like your thoughts on this. So trying because I was talking about Aria being a German breed of dog, and
Yeah.
it's an accent that I've never really tried to do. If you want to do an accent, it's very. I was speculating that it's quite difficult because we talked about walking a line between appropriation and appreciation. But you have to practice accents to get them
Yes.
down, right? So when you start practicing them, you're not going to get it right straight away.
No.
Even children, like everyone has. First off, like everyone has an accent because sometimes people go,
Yeah.
I can't do accents. No, you can. Like if you can speak, then you have an accent. It's that
Exactly.
yeah. So everyone can do an accent because they're already doing one. But yeah, even children when they're learning to speak, they're not going to get it straight away. It's a lot easier for them because and that's obviously the cruel thing about people making fun and trying to be on purpose offensive about your accent is because a lot of us don't actually have a choice of how we, well, basically everyone doesn't have a choice on how they speak, as a child, because all you're doing, it doesn't matter. Like, they say, oh yeah, you're posh, you speak like that. And I'm like, no, I just speak like the adults did that were around me. There was no
Yeah.
like that. Nobody came up to me and like, "Oh, hello, good sir. What accent would you like for the rest of your life?" Oh, I'll take posh English, please. It
Was
doesn't
it
work
not
like that.
was it not Michael McIntyre who did a very similar sketch on this where he was
He's a
like,
comedian, yeah.
talking about children, when he talked about accents and people
Oh yeah,
saying exactly that, saying, "Oh, I don't have an accent." He's like, "No, everyone has an accent.
yeah,
You don't meet a family of people from one area and they've just got one child." He's like, "I know, I just didn't
yeah.
get an accent."
Yeah, they've got either. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, because I've heard it from a lot of people like, "Oh, you don't have an accent," and I go like, "Yeah, well, I have." But then if you speak to someone in France, then yeah, of course I have an accent. I have an English accent. But I imagine I imagine in France there are accents that are considered a vanilla accent, and then you go, oh yeah, you don't have an accent. Well, of course they have an accent. Everyone does. But yeah, my point is you
Yeah.
have
So
to
what?
practice, right?
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, what is your advice then for people who are wanting to um create a new accent for a character? What's your advice for them to be able to actually go off and do that?
Well, it's tough because it's something I'm learning how to do now, and it's because you really are conscious of not wanting to. Well, one of the biggest, obviously you don't want to offend people, but two, uh, you don't want to feel you don't want to feel stupid. But you got to follow the rules of being a good D&D TTRPG player. You got to just go for it and embrace
Yeah.
the failure, and role play. We need to do a podcast episode because I wrote an article of 5 tips on being a better D&D player.
Mm-hmm.
And I called it that, but really it's 5 tips to just improve your D&D experience if you are the player, not the DM.
Yeah.
And we talk about I talk about accents in that article, when it comes to, because what the 5th tip is, support your fellow players.
Yes.
So yeah, so one thing that you don't want to do when you go out, someone is trying to do an accent. The only reason, like, this can, obviously, if someone's being a jackass at your table and they're doing an accent to, on purpose, make fun of, someone, or another culture or race, then that guy's a jackass, that girl's a jackass. Get them out of there. But yeah, in general, when people come up and go, right, um, I've got a character accent. Sorry, the only
Mm-hmm.
reason they're doing that is to improve the experience for everyone. They're not up for, they're not going up for an Oscar, on their acting and voice talents. They're doing
Yeah.
they're doing the voice to add to immersion, so everyone else at the table is more immersed. So yeah, I really dislike it when, if someone's trying to do a voice, especially the DM. If the DM's trying to do voices for you, it's okay if they're trying to be funny. It's okay to laugh,
Yeah.
yeah, but don't
Yeah.
don't yeah, don't make fun of people straight away that are trying to do an accent, because they're doing it for your benefit. If someone's can't go, right, I'm going to be playing, a gnome, and they're going to be, they're going to have an Irish brogue, yeah, but you can't really
Yeah.
do, they've not really done an Irish accent before, and they're trying. Don't every time they open their mouth be like, what is this? What is this? Because they're doing, what they're doing? They're doing it for you. They're
I
literally doing it for everyone at
just
the
want to
table.
say that, yeah, like you're not doing an accent to entertain yourself, you're doing it to entertain others. Um yeah. I mean, like, when it comes to just sort of create an accent yourself and everything, the one thing that I would sort of say to people would be, find what works for you, because everyone learns accents differently. One of the most common ways of learning is finding a sentence that works to get you into an accent. And I know that's very common. A lot of people do
Yeah,
it.
it's good advice.
Doesn't work for me
No.
at all. What works for me is the mirroring technique. And when I did a one shot for you, Oliver, ages ago, I knew I wanted quite a lot of Irish characters within there, or I wanted at least one decent Irish character. So I spent time with my friend who is from Southern Ireland that morning, so I could try and just get some of the words sounding right again. And it kind of worked for a while. I need to practice that more. But I think my favorite place to practice accents is the car.
While you're driving it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't do as much driving as I used to these days. So yeah, I used to practice in the car. And if you do that, by the way, if you practice your character voice in the car, you're in very good company because, the likes of Robin Williams, he often told stories about him doing character voices in his car, like, and just absolutely going for it in traffic jams, and people looking at him being like, "What is going on in there?" But yeah, it's a good time. It's a good time to practice that type of thing. But yeah, one thing I'm actually struggling with is, which we might see when we start our D&D campaign, because when I speak and do character voices, I like to stand up, whereas a lot of the time when you're playing TTRPGs, you're sat down because your voice completely changes, and trying to character act when you're sat down is really difficult to do. If you go to I'm pretty sure everyone's seen on TV or news articles when you see voice recording studios and the actors are in the voice recording studios, even if it's a radio play and it's not very active, everyone stood up. Everyone is stood up. I think they do. I think some obviously there are exceptions. I think some do them sitting down, but the majority of them.
Yeah, most of your sort of like just sort of rough read through are sat down, especially those of you on the same TikTok groups that I'm in will notice that most of them are sat down in like a big circle in a room.
And obviously radio hosts.
Sorry?
And obviously radio hosts as well, they'll do their stuff sat down.
And then when it comes to the actual talk through, you stand up.
That's recording.
Yeah. One of the things that I really love doing, and this works, okay? Trust me, it works, guys. Try it. Next time you're in the car and you're singing along to something, because I know that everyone does it. It's not just me that loudly sings along to everything. Sing it in a different accent, because that is how I got my Annalise accent nailed down.
Yeah. Because
I sang on repeat. I had oh my god.
Well, it obviously hasn't been repeated that often then, has it?
I had Ice Ice Baby on repeat.
Ice Baby.
That's not the name, is it?
No.
That's the name. I totally left my head.
Oh no, yeah, the Vanilla Ice song. Yeah, it's Ice Baby, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was like, it doesn't sound right now I'm singing it. I had that on repeat. And I used to have a 40-minute drive to work, and I would just keep replaying that, and I would sing it in that accent because it was great, because there was a lot of speaking, and then there was singing, and then I was changing it, and then I was changing the way that I was acting through it. It really worked for nailing that accent.
I think you're appropriating now by saying that rapping is a lot of speaking. It's rapping, Robin. Come on.
Yeah, but
you said there's a lot of singing and a lot of speaking in the song. There's literally only rapping.
I'm saying speaking because I can't rap. So when I was doing it, it was speaking, guys.
No, it was rap. It was if you were saying the words right in the right, and you were following the rhythm, you were rapping. Which is funny because I didn't expect you to say that at all.
There's a good range of words.
Yeah.
Is what I actually meant to say. So I am sorry. I meant there's a good range of words. It wasn't just like a song where you're just repeating the same words over and over again. There was such a good range of words that are actually difficult to say and difficult to rap anyway. So trying them in an accent that I was trying to do really worked for just nailing that down.
That's funny.
Now every time it comes on the radio, I go into Annalise mode.
That's funny because that's not where I was expecting you to go with that at all. I thought you were going to say that, yeah, some songs are sung in different accents and then you can just mirror what they're saying. But yeah, Vanilla Ice definitely didn't have a an Eastern
No.
European accent. No.
Oh,
Um, I
definitely
mean, if
not.
it works, I might. Because yeah, yeah, I would.
Yeah, it worked for me.
Yeah, yeah, because I would probably like advise the opposite. I mean, there's definitely there's loads of songs that, yeah, weirdly enough, a lot of even, even uh well, I'll say a lot of artists will sing in an American accent. That it's something that is just very common. There's a lot of, yeah, British singers that will sing
Yeah,
in
that's a
in an
good
American accent.
point.
But there's, I think, I don't know. I'm not a music person. Maybe there's actually a term for the type of accent that a lot of people sing in.
Maybe, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the things that's quite funny is Kevin Bloody Wilson, who is Australian, and whenever I remember you sort of picking up on this and making fun of this, because I used to always try to sing his songs in his Australian accent every time I did an English accent. I can't do it. I
Oh
can't
yeah,
just
because
come out
yeah,
and do an English
a
accent. But if
lot
I
of
try to
people.
sound Australian, I'll do an English accent.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of people will get confused between the Southern English accent, especially the Cockney accent, with an Australian accent. They're very close. That there are, yeah, they are very different, but they are also very close. People will try to do the Australian
Yeah.
accent and end up with a Cockney accent, and vice versa. I've known a lot of people to, try to even mirror my accent, and they come out Australian.
Yeah, no,
And
that's
it's like,
true.
yeah, it's
Because
it
like okay, I need to admit this because it's been a couple of times that we've been watching things. I can't actually think of anything to reference at the minute, but there's definitely times that we've been watching or listening to things, and I've assumed it was set in England because of the accents, but it wasn't, and they were
neighbors.
Australian.
Yeah.
Oh, there was a TikToker, right?
Was
So
it?
we were obviously really getting into LARP and everything, and there is this TikToker,
Oh
and she's
yeah.
got all these videos, all these LARP videos. Thought she was English, and I was like, "Oh my god, this looks amazing! I'd
Yeah.
love to go meet up with this girl. She seems awesome. She's Australian."
Yeah. Well, like
all her videos are in Australia.
yeah. Yeah, like I was saying, the English accent is very much at the front of your mouth, and yeah, the Australian accent is in that region as well. It's very much at the front of their face, um, when they speak. So it's pretty easy just to, it kind of blends into the other. I have known, like, I
Yeah.
had a lecturer at college, and he
Mhm.
was, yeah, he was from a part of Essex, which is, yeah, near London, for people who don't know what that is, in England. But yeah, his specific way of speaking, he'd never been to Australia in his life, but so many people thought he was Australian, and you could totally hear it, even being English and listening to him. It was because he was so very close, to that accent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's
Unless
that's the
unless you
thing though.
unless you know the differences as well, right? Like, because I know people get very confused with, yeah, but people who aren't from like the Oceanic region, they get very confused with, the Kiwi accent and the Australian accent. People who
Mm.
aren't from the North American part of the world, they get confused between the Canadian and the American accent. So yeah, I can totally understand when people, yeah, get confused.
Oh yeah, like I understand it. I mean, I've had obviously at the minute I get a lot of people asking where I'm from, and they keep thinking I'm Irish, and I'm like, do you know what? If you don't hear a lot of Scottish and Irish accents, they're going to sound similar. That's
Yeah.
totally fine. Um, I've known quite a lot of people from New Zealand, which means usually, not always, but usually I can spot if someone's from New Zealand or Australia. America and Canada, though, no, there's been quite a few. I always thought, oh no, that must be quite easy to tell the difference. No. And one of my favorite TV shows is set in Canada, and they are all Canadian. And I still can't seem to point it out.
Yeah, all our American and Canadian listeners are hating us right now. They're like, oh,
I'm
they're completely
sorry,
different.
guys. It's
Yeah,
just because we love you all.
yeah, yeah.
You all sound beautiful.
Yeah. But yeah, going back to like practicing accents, it's literally what I would probably do instead of just, going for it. Because you can just go for it, especially if you're the DM and you're trying to come up with a an NPC. Because what I'll do is I'll go, right, this person is going to be, from, it's going to have this accent, and then something completely different
Mhm.
comes out, and then you're like, oh well, they didn't know any better, so I'm just going to go with this accent. You're like, oh, I really want this to have, I want this character to have. I mean, you've done it. I know you've done it before, Robin. I know you've gone. I know
Yeah.
you've started out with an Irish character that went completely Glaswegian, and it just
Right, okay, no, let me defend myself with this Irish character because this Irish character had this beautiful Irish accent. I was so happy that I nailed this accent. And he bloody made his character question this
how dare I?
NPC and annoy her to the point where she had to raise her voice. And I don't know how to raise my voice
In an Irish
Irish
accent.
accent because I was lowering the tone in order to do it. So I raised it and it went completely Glaswegian. This NPC was a stable hand at a very sort of well-to-do elven city, and she was very soft spoken, very polite. She was of an upper class, and I gave her this Southern Irish accent. Thought this is beautiful. And now she's Glaswegian, which doesn't fit in at all, but it's happened, okay?
Well, yeah, yes, yeah. Because sometimes it's difficult to, because some accents lend themselves to, yeah, a certain, what's the word? Is register the right word? So yeah, you will see a lot of, you'll see a lot of people doing a Scottish accent for a dwarf, and I don't think that is,
Yeah.
I do not actually think that is much to do with, oh, we associate culturally the dwarves with Scottish people. I don't think that's a thing at all. I just find that, or I think that people will go, okay, it's easier to do a Scottish accent in a lower tone, right? So when you don't have that accent, it's go, okay, I can do someone who is stout and broad, and has a beard and is going to have a deep voice. People don't then go, oh, actually, and then if they go, right, this is going to be an elf, they're going to be, their register is going to be very high up here, and they're going to speak at the front of their voice, and it turns out just as an English accent, so it's not that elves are English, dwarves are Scottish. It is just a people trying to put characteristics into that character, and maybe those types of voices will just lend themselves to
Yeah.
that body
No, yeah,
type.
definitely. I mean, there's other ways as well. If you really analyze how different accents come about, like actually physically how people are moving their mouths to make those sounds, that's another way as well, I guess, that you can practice some because with the Scottish accent in particularly, your vowels, if really like emphasizing and elongating your vowels can just bring that accent about as well.
Yeah,
That works quite well. Obviously, there's also the rolling of R's and L's,
yeah, ours
but
are a
that's
big deal.
something
Yeah,
that can be quite difficult to do if you've never done it before.
yeah.
But it's something that I don't know if it's harder to do if you've never done it, or if it's harder to stop doing if you're used to it, because I struggle. There's certain words and names that I can't say, but I can say them. They just
You
sound
can.
hilarious.
Yeah, you can. Well, yeah, people do get very, very stuck on their accent, to the point where they actually have, if you've never actually tried to do a different accent, it is so difficult. Yeah, it's another reason why if someone's doing an accent at your gaming table, like you shouldn't make fun of them because they're not
Oh
easy
yeah.
to do. People literally have mental blocks, like you have said, and then people will be quite rude as well. I mean, I've done it to make fun of my friends who are my close friends, yeah, who do have a Scottish accent. The most important people in my life are Scottish. Obviously, I don't have an issue with the Scottish. I don't have an issue with the Scottish accent, but yeah, it's fun sometimes to play with them, play with the different accents. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I've had Scottish friends that we do this like game, and you say, "How do I say this?" and "How do you say this?" And you can say it both ways. Like so give us an example, Robin. What kind of word is difficult for a Scottish
Okay.
person to say?
How about we go for the one that's been all over TikTok because people have been having a lot of fun with this, and
Oh,
it's
really?
purple burglar alarm.
Yeah, see, I think you need to say that again because I don't think nobody is going to understand what you just said.
Purple burglar alarm.
Yeah, but you did it there. But yeah, try not to
You
roll
can
that
say
R.
it, but it's there's so many R's and L's, or the name that I can't say. You know the name.
Yeah, but you can say it. So
I have to really focus
yeah.
on it.
So one of our the best thing was when well we
Walking Dead.
yeah, we were living in Scotland at the time when The
Mhm.
Walking Dead was like at the height of its popularity. So my wife Robin and a lot of my Scottish friends would be talking about The Walking Dead. Now it's very confusing. There was a character in The Walking Dead called Carol, and there is another character called Carl. Carl is the son of one of the main characters, Rick, and Carol is a woman who's part of the group. Now, when people in Scotland were discussing this, those two names sound identical in the Scottish accent. So Carl and Carol sound the same. Do you want to demonstrate how?
Okay. Carol. That's obviously Carol. And Carl.
And Carol. Carol and Carol and Carol.
Carol and Carol.
Yeah. They're like, you know who I really like? Carol. And you're like, Carol? No, Carol.
Carol.
Carol. You're like,
Carol.
Yeah.
Curly Whirly is another one.
Curly...
Anything with an R and an L together.
Yeah. Well, because
it's a challenge, guys. It's hard.
Yeah.
We're trying.
Yeah. But that's more of just a mental block because you can say it. People will say, because then Scottish people, they go, "Oh, I can't say it." You're like, "Well, yeah, but you jump in your car and you don't call your car your cara." So you like it is there, but you're so used to rolling that R before the L that trying to get your head around it is difficult.
I struggle a little bit more, I think, as well. I grew up with a lisp, a really prominent lisp for a long time. And the way that I was taught to correct it was that whenever I made certain sounds with my mouth, my tongue needed to touch the back of my teeth. And that's how I was taught to correct that. So the thought of saying the letter R without putting my tongue behind my teeth is really difficult to get my brain to bring it down in my mouth, because I know what's happening in my mouth when I'm saying these letters and these words. But it's almost this block where I'm like, no, I was given speech therapy and taught that this is the position you need to put your tongue in so that you do not make that sound. And now I'm getting told you need to put it in a different position to make it sound how it's supposed to sound. And I really struggle, but if I slow my speech right down, I can do it.
Yeah,
I think it's practice. It's one of these things, isn't it?
It's when you know your vowels, because going back to that fantasy accent we were talking about, which is sort of English, it's the way that you hear some of these, and like I said, I don't have a problem with the accent. I know it is trying to imitate an English accent a lot of the time, but it's usually like the colloquialisms that give it away. So if it's an American voice actor or an American DM, and they're doing the fantasy accent, but they'll still jump over the T. They won't go 40. They'll go yes and 40, and you're like, no, that's not how an English person would say that. Or a lot of it's the R's as well. The R's are important for accents. It's where you put the R in your voice is where you can get a lot of it. So the English accent is tough, because that's why I think people find the Cockney accent a little bit easier, because you just tighten up your jaw and don't move your mouth too much, and then you start going Cockney. Whereas something more like my accent, it's more about putting your ruz. So your car, not your car, or your car. It's your car. So and
Even
the
the way you said the letter there, I've never said it like that. Like even heard it say like that, and unless it's here, and I've heard it a lot
yeah
saying calling it. What did you say? R?
ra
Yeah.
yeah ra yeah
Whereas we go R or
yeah
That's the capital and
yeah
lowercase, and it's like it's just totally different. And I mean, yeah, I guess it's sort of how you pronounce your consonants and how much you drag out or shorten your vowels. That's what makes that playing about with those two features can create so many different
yeah.
accents.
Well, that's
It's
why
really fun.
the sentence thing that you brought up earlier is that's why that's a technique, is because the sentences usually will put you into that rhythm of, oh yeah, that's how I say the R's, the U's, the T's, the F's. That's how I say it. When I'm in that accent, so that triggering
Yeah.
that triggering sentence.
Yeah, because I mean, like, I know I said earlier the sentence does not work for me. It doesn't really work, but individual words will work. Like literally just one word. Because I relate certain slang words, obviously, to certain accents. So when it's Glaswegian, the word pure,
Pure, yeah,
that instantly brings me into it.
pure. That's pure for everyone in the world that has
I'm
no idea
sorry.
about Glasgow. Pure, yeah.
Yeah,
Are
I
you gonna
think
give us some Glasgow?
some Glasgow.
No, you don't have to. Yeah, I thought that's why I thought you were going with that. Yeah,
Oh right, no, I wasn't, but
that's yeah.
I could I don't know what to say.
See, there you go. Yeah, it's tough
It's
to.
okay, like it's really like difficult and everything to come up with a different accent on the spot. It's like you're like you're worrying about what's going to come out of your mouth and everything, and what if it doesn't sound right, and then what happens if you just can't get the next word out. It's like I'm just pure saying the same words over and over again here.
Yeah. So what are that brings me very well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, that
Also, praise is nice afterwards.
yeah, well done. Yeah, if someone's doing a good job of doing a character voice in a TTRPG, make sure you tell them that they're doing a good job, especially after the fact, after the game. Be like, yeah, I love the characteristic. So yeah, talking about accents, and that particular accent you're saying about getting your words out. What people really struggle with is like pace and cadence, because if you normally have an accent that is relatively slow, it can be difficult to learn how to speed up your speech. To create this character, you go, okay, because there's lots of different ways you can make different characters. You can have the same accent,
Yeah.
but if you just change the speed. If you change, if you change, there are. I really wish I had. You know what? I'm going to bring up an email from someone that explained this to me, because you can have. I'm not musical in any way, but yeah, you have things called like staccato and legato.
Yeah.
So yeah, like lengthening words, shortening words. You can use the same accent, but yeah, you can have them just talk in a different rhythm. You can use the same accent, and you can draw it out, and you get a totally different vibe of a character. Or you can really speed it up and make them all jittery and speak like this, like a rather doddery professor. Yes, like a very charming Hugh Grant. Just say every word rather quickly. And how clumsy am I? It's the same accent, but you're just doing it in a different you're doing it at a different pace.
I mean, just while you're looking for that email, when I first started to consciously think, right, I want to try different accents. one thing I did is I Googled it, of course. I ended up on YouTube, and there was a guy on YouTube. There's quite a few people on YouTube actually who have done videos on this, but there was one particular person, and their videos, it was on 50 ways to change how your voice sounds without changing your accent.
Oh,
basically
yeah.
saying, and I sent it to you at the time because I was like, you need to look at this.
Yeah.
And it was basically saying, well, you did. And it went through tone, it went through pronunciation, it went through pitch. And these things all made such a big difference. And I literally sat and played with my own accent to just be more comfortable with it and create different voices with the same accent, because, well, you go anywhere, everybody can have the same accent, but they've all got a different voice.
Well, of course,
they don't have the same voice.
Yeah, exactly. I've just looked that up because I don't like saying things on the podcast with it like, oh yeah, this person, and you're not giving them credit. The channel is called Improve Your Voice. So
yes,
on YouTube, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, because there's nothing worse. Yeah, there's nothing worse, especially if that person needs the. But everyone needs, content creators need their. They need the love. So if you can share, if anyone has, received any help from content creators, make sure you share their stuff around. Make sure you like their videos. Make sure you rate their podcasts. Wink, wink.
Yeah, so Improve Your Voice. I spent a long time on their videos. They've got some fantastic videos on helping you, and it's something that you can just sit and do in your car if you like.
Yeah.
Or just, wherever, somewhere you feel comfortable.
Yeah, so I've got a someone who's been helping me out with different voices, and that they talked about different ways to change your voice other than accents. You have tone. It's if they're a very, very serious person, or if they're a very light-hearted person all the time, and pitch. You can have the same accent, but change the pitch. That's dead easy. Yes, staccato, legato. I've already covered. Resonance is something. I mean, it's a lot easier to do on the mic to change to change the vibe of something, because you can pretend you're telling people a secret. But even at a table, you can do that. So if in your D&D table, if it's a really if it's an intense scene, like lean forward, and it's very atmospheric. The fog is clinging to the buildings. And then if you're doing a funny scene, the end, lean back and laugh. If it's a scene where you're playing, the king's gesture and he's speaking to a crowd, like lean back and project. And then obviously, a lot of it is to do with if you're playing someone who's big and burly, then use characteristics to change your voice, not so much just because it doesn't have to be here. Yeah. Which is kind of the point I've been trying to make, but not very well. But actually changing your physical attributes will change your voice. You stand up straight, shoulders back. If you want to do a really heroic Superman pose, you find your voice becomes very Superman like. If you want to do someone who's maybe like an old crone that's like leant over and just lean forward and constrict your airways, you'll make a voice that's not an accent. I've not changed my accent at all, but
exactly. I mean, it's something I've noticed definitely whenever I do the sort of like more ditzy else. I mean, my eyes really wide, and I really focus on my eyes being wide, and sometimes I kind of do a lot of lean forward. When I do Annalise, usually flirty, so sometimes I like play with my hair, or I like to sit with my knees up quite a lot. I like to sit on my feet when I'm in the chair. That helps a lot, and I think it's mainly just because it's sort of pushing my diaphragm up, and I'm able to get the sounds that I want. If I perch, that's a better word. I perch on my seat when I'm doing voices, because it allows me to get the right sort of amount of oxygen into it. yeah, I mean, there's just so many cool ways that you can
Yeah, just changing your face
change your
shape.
voice
Yeah,
or change your accent or do anything like that.
yeah.
It's just it's so much fun.
Yeah, have a look at.
But
I would say as well. Have a look at character art. Right, that's
mhm,
one good trick is to have character art for your NPCs. You know, obviously for your character, you can do that. But a lot of people are going to be in character a lot, so that the DM is usually, or the storyteller is usually going to be the one that's going to be changing their voice the most, because the players
mhm.
will have the one character, and they'll pick something that they can comfortably play. Sometimes they don't pick something they can comfortably play, and they don't realize that until like 5 sessions on, and their voice has to change.
Yeah.
You know, because they start talking like this, and you're really going to play 70 hours of this, you know, little goblin warrior, and they're going to talk like that really for the whole time. But as the storyteller, you have these characters that are fleeting and they just come and go, and to make them memorable, you can actually go for it because you don't have to speak like that the whole
Yeah.
time.
Oh, 100%. I mean,
Yeah, but
yeah, I'm
you can always look at art, is what I was going to say, for your NPCs, and yeah, contort your. Have a look at some like voice actors do. If you go on YouTube and have a look at voice actors, especially some of the well known ones as well. You know, uh, like Steve Bloom and things like that, who do lots of creature voices. You know, they'll literally contort
mhm.
their face into the creature, especially when you're doing monsters and things like that. Got even things like even your like base races in D&D. You know, we could totally just go through them. Human, that's fine. Like, um, the more like ones that are less human like, so like your Dragonborn and your half orcs. You know, your Dragonborn have very like square jaws. You know, so maybe speak a little bit more like your jaw, and you don't have that. You know, you have this kind of serpent tongue as well, so you could even throw in a bit of like into your speech. I know that's something that you probably wouldn't want to encourage, Robin, with if you've been trying, if you especially have that mental block with your lisp as well.
Oh, Alec, it makes me feel anxious, even the
Yeah,
thought of it.
yeah. But you've got that in your toolbox though. You've just got a mental block on it. You
Oh,
know.
oh, there's such a mental block. I
Yeah,
used to have a stutter as well. I think I
yeah.
want to bring that into it.
Well, this is the other thing you've got to be careful with. Maybe not with accents.
Oh,
It's funny you bring that. You know, we've just brought that up kind of organically. Yeah, we're talking about accents with like being appreciation versus appropriation. You know, be careful with speech impediments. You know, I think speech impediments are fine because some of the most beautiful speakers in the world, um, yeah, have what you know people diagnose as speech impediments. You know,
yeah.
yes, so some of the most beautiful singers have speech impediments. You know, and it's what makes the voice unique. You know, and it's beautiful. You know, yeah, there's lots of you know not every actor. You know, you can look at lots of these different actors, and you can almost you know they have these distinctive voices, right? But sometimes it's what you might you know you might criticize that way they speak, but because they
Mm,
do speak in that way, you're like, oh, you go, oh yeah, that like Michael Gambon, right? So he speaks, he speaks, very nasally, isn't he, Harry? You're a wizard, Harry. You know, he's very nasally. Now you can be like, oh, my voice is really nasally, but no, like you can lean into that. That's a special thing. And then when
yeah.
if you're creating it, and if you don't have a voice like that, that's a character voice you can use. You know, push your voice right up into your nose. You know, um, that's a character straight away.
Yeah.
You just push your voice into your nasal cavity, and you can push it, you know, way down as well. So some people naturally speak like that, but that's what makes them unique, and that's what makes them special, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. It's I know myself always I definitely struggle with the whole speech impediment thing when it comes to lists and things like that. I even struggle to say the word because it just kind of makes me feel like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't even know how I'd feel if I was playing in a campaign and somebody else decided to give their character a lisp. I think I'd really
Oh, really?
struggle
Yeah. Okay.
with it. I think I would actually. It's funny, but we've talked about things like, um, lines and fails and everything like that. And I'm just like, we're talking about this now, and I'm like, wow, I think I'd really struggle to play a campaign
Interesting.
because I'd be constantly, because I mirror speech as well. I'd really struggle with that actually.
Yeah.
But one thing that I just because you mentioned about actors and things like that. One thing I did to get RNL's accent is I spent a long time watching Lena Headey clips on YouTube because I wanted that accent. And I spent so long watching a scene, repeating it, all Game of Thrones scenes because it was her particular Cersei accent I wanted. But I also really love Claudia Black. So the good thing about Claudia Black is she's a voice actor. And she has got a lot of videos out there of her literally talking about how she goes and records. And I was watching her and I was following her tips and her tricks. And I was listening to her for, oh my God, it must have been hours of Claudia Black and Lena Headey just jumping between the two to get that accent.
Yeah, Claudia Black, very prominent
And
voice actor.
All of them do that thing with their jaw. They all lock their jaw to get that sort of accent through, because specifically I wanted her Morrigan accent. So they all kind of did that thing with their jaw where they're kind of like locking it like that. And that worked so well. And then as an extension to that, the third one I looked at was Keira Knightley, because she does the same thing where she kind of like has quite a big jaw and she kind of like locks it like that to get that type of voice to come through. And I'm just sitting listening to these three women for hours trying to get it right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then Claudia Black, who's she's from the Oceanic region. She's not British, but she's very well known for being a voice actor and doing a British accent. I mean, I'm pretty sure she does that accent in pretty much everything she does. But I think obviously in that circle in the Hollywood voice acting scene, that there isn't actually that many British, actual British voice actors anyway, and a lot of them, because they're voice actors, they'll have them for multiple roles. So a lot of the time, your British speaking parts will be played by, the actors that you have there, and a lot of them won't be British. And that's it. And especially so if you're an actor that can do that type of accent, then you're going to get a ton of work. Over there. I do know if you're good at doing types of voices as well. I think there is a trend. I haven't actually looked into it. There is a trend online that people will hire out their voice for D&D campaigns.
It's me that told you about this.
No. Yeah. Well, I was telling the podcast world. I kind of knew you were aware of it.
Oh, sorry. It's the Reddit thread. You want to go our voice, or it's our voice RPG. If you go to that thread, you can hire your voice out there. So that's a specific thread you want to go to. And then you can basically hire your voice out there to be part of different TTRPGs. So that you can help play it's usually people who are looking for a villain or something like that, something to kind of give a shock factor to their players. And the people who have done it, they've done a mixture of pre-recording what they're going to say. Some of them have literally jumped onto a Roll20 call, a Discord call, or a Zoom call just to be that voice, just to respond to people, and then I'll leave it from there.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, because I mean the biggest issue with villains in D&D games is that because it is always, I know cutscenes are a thing. People sometimes do cutscenes, but a lot of the time it is from the player's perspective, and the big bad evil guy is just not around. The villain is not around a lot, so you don't actually get that much interaction with them, because as soon as you see them, a lot of the time they're like, right, fight. That's usually when you see them. Trying to drop a villain in, which is why I think Strahd is so well loved, because in that storyline he constantly shows up. So you actually get to know the villain. Whereas a lot of them, there's kind of a little bit of an issue with the the Lost Mine of Fandelver, where you don't see the villain until at the end of the campaign, and you're just like, oh, you're behind all this, and they get like one monologue, and then that's it. Whereas really, if you can, if you want to really cement your villain, you really want to try to have them at least show up in some respect. At least have them show up when the players can't do anything about it. Have them show up when they know they're trapped in a situation. Whether it be physically trapped or just like circumstantially trapped. And they can't actually take action yet.
Yeah.
We could do a podcast on villains. But yeah, having a good villain voice is definitely a good start to make your villain distinctive. Because that's.
I think Annalisa would make a good villain. I think her voice would make a good villain voice.
Oh yeah.
I can picture that.
Yeah. Eastern European villain.
Yeah. Who would have thought?
It's as bad as the English villain. Yeah. No, it's
She's an Eastern European anymore at this point. At this point, she's fantasy version of that.
Well, yeah, because there's a lot of Eastern European, just generic. I think he's probably the same as like the posh English fantasy accent that a lot of people use. In the pop culture and in the TTRPG space, there's definitely a fantasy Eastern European that everyone uses as well. It tends to drop into like, you got to be careful that it doesn't drop it completely into Dracula, but.
Yes, I really struggle with her. She ends up going Dracula-esque a lot because the way that I get into her accent is I say the word well, but I make the W sound a V sound. Just say that.
Well,
just say the one word well. That's all I need to do. And then that kind of leads into it because I'm just putting that sort of V sound forward. But I usually do that. I did it a few times in games, actually. I've muted myself, sort of moved out of the camera a little bit just to say a few sentences to myself or to start speaking or just to read something in her accent, just to read something out of the player's handbook or something like that. And then come back on because otherwise I go full on vampire. So you need to get the vampire bit out the way first. And then
you don't want to do the Count from Sesame Street. Exactly. But if you want to do the Count, I'm saying you don't want to do it. If you want to do the Count from Sesame Street, go for it.
You want to do the count.
Yeah, exactly. That's
count.
Yeah, it's a memorable villain. Anyway, talking about vampires because this is a great segue. Yeah. So anyone who's listening, so what date are we on today? Today is
We're on the 16th today.
Yeah, this is the 16th of February 2022. So this Saturday, the 19th, we are going to be playing the first game of our 2-player Dungeons and Dragons campaign, and it is called The Land of Vampires. The Land of Vampires. There may or may not be characters that are similar to the Count in Sesame Street. I possibly. I'm not going to promise anything. But yeah, we're going to be playing that game on Saturday. So if you're listening to this in real time, then head over to twitch.tv /2have_2roll. That's 2 the number 2 and roll is into roleplay. You can catch us. We tend to stream. We're currently streaming every Thursday. We're doing like live hangouts, a bit like what we're doing with the podcast, but you guys can interact with us, ask us questions, and we tend to kind of discuss a topic. I play some video games on there as well. And yes, this Saturday we're going to be starting our TTRPG gameplay series, starting off with the 2-player Dungeons and Dragons campaign called The Land of Vampires. So yeah.
And Annalise the Barbs will be joining you there.
Yes, it'll be very good. Very good.
It'll be very good.
Can't wait. Can't wait for campaign. It's going to be good.
Oh, I love it when you do that accent.
It's going to be good. There may or may not be character. There may be character that do this accent. I don't know.
I'd really like if there were characters to the accent.
We'll have to tune in, find out. Yeah. So
dear.
yeah. So if you want to laugh at us being just terrible, but I assure you, underline this. It is appreciation, not appropriation. Yeah. So catch us on Saturday. We're gonna say goodbye, Robin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you guys for listening to us and hanging out with us. And yeah, I guess for those of you, like Oliver just said, who are listening in real time, hopefully we'll get to see you along on Saturday for our first episode.
Yeah, I'm excited. Right, guys. Bye.
Bye.
See ya. If you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to subscribe so you know when a new episode is posted. Rate and review this podcast, and then catch us live at twitch.tv/2have_2roll. That is the number 2 and roll as into roleplay. Thank you very much for listening.